In the late 1960s, a black and white film clip began circulating out of the Soviet Union. A woman sits at a table. Her hands hover a few inches above a salt shaker, a matchbox, a metal compass. The objects, they start to move, twitching across the surface. No wires are visible. No assistants are nearby. And the woman in the fray, Nina Sergeyevna Kulagina, she would become one of the most disputed figures of Cold War science. Nina was born Nina Mikhailova on the 30th of July, 1926 in Leningrad. As a teenager, she served in a Soviet tank unit during World War II as a radio operator, taking shrapnel wounds before she was 17. After the war, she married, took the name Kulagina, and raised a family and lived an ordinary civilian life. Nothing in her background suggested she become the center of an international argument about the limits of the human mind. Her story changed when Soviet researchers claimed that she could influence physical objects without touching them, not in the theatrical style of stage magicians, but in small, controlled demonstrations, shifting machines, moving a compass needle, and nudging a glass dome covering a metal object. Films were made in physiology labs in Leningrad. Observers reported that during these sessions, her pulse could spike past 180 beats per minute. Sometimes she would break into tremors or sweat heavily as she concentrated. Soviet scientists framed it not as mysticism, but as a possible biological or electromagnetic effect, something they hoped that they could measure. One of the most controversial sessions took place on 10 March 1970. A dissected frog's heart was suspended in solution. According to lab notes, Nina focused on it for over half an hour. Observers said the heart sped up, slowed down, and then stopped. For believers, this film was the closest thing to biological proof that psychokinesis was real. For skeptics, it was a perfect example of why extraordinary claims need airtight controls. Because the problems were obvious, many of her demonstrations took place in hotel rooms or loosely supervised labs. Lighting varied, objects weren't always isolated from vibration. Investigators couldn't fully rule out hidden magnets or fine threads. And magicians reviewing the footage pointed out techniques consistent with classic sleight of hand. Even Soviet publications contradicted each other. Pravda once accused her of fraud and hinted that she carried a small magnet. She sued in 1987 and won a partial correction. The state never fully retracted the claim, but it did soften it, which kept the debate alive. The Cold War context, well, that mattered. Both the USSR and the United States were exploring anything that might offer an intelligence advantage. Psychic research programs existed on both sides. The idea of a woman who could tilt a compass or nudge a needle without contact fit perfectly into the era's atmosphere. Half science, half paranoia, and often both at the same time. By the 1980s, her health declined. She died in Leningrad on April 11, 1990, reportedly from heart failure. She left behind decades of film reels, scientific notes, and a trail of arguments that still haven't settled. Was she gifted? Was she performing? Or was she simply the right personality at the right moment for a government hungry for evidence of human potential under pressure? What we know for certain is that Nina Kulagina became the most documented alleged telekinetic of the 20th century. Her image still circulates today because it sits at the crossroad of science, belief, state ambition, and the human desire to understand what's possible. These are Interesting Things with JC.